Hello, my name is Karin Thompson, and I'm here to do the colleague to colleague video. I thought I'd start off with my thoughts about Larry Cuban and his reflections on use of technology in the school system. At first, when I first read his article, and then I went on to read others because I was curious, I thought, oh, what a pessimist. He obviously doesn't know anything about what technology. He didn't have the foresight he thought he had. But as I read further, I somewhat actually agree with what he said, especially the part in the pattern of failure. And specifically, the points he made about why technology comes into play. At that time, it would have been more TVs, VCRs, and then fails because of outside factors or things that weren't thought of at the time. One of the things I thought of immediately was when he talked about limited access and expense. Post-COVID, or during COVID and post-COVID, many schools were able to provide one-on-one devices to their students for remote learning. But a huge problem was that the students didn't have access to internet. They either couldn't afford it or it wasn't available in their area. Our more rural students couldn't even get connected. So while we had the devices and the technology in place, we did not have the availability to connect to the internet. The other part of that is he talked about a reason for failure of technology in schools would be expense. While we have devices, a problem that we encounter all the time is access to apps, because schools will allow access to certain apps, but not the paid version. And so our students have very limited access to some of the things that would promote technology in the classroom. A good example of that was I was using stop motion animation with my library classes and had everything set up and was all excited about that. And we had the apps for stop motion animation, but we only had the free version and could not have the paid version because our school didn't pay for it, didn't have the funding for it. So the students could only get a little bit into stop motion animation, and they weren't able to use green screen, and they weren't able to use editing, and they weren't able to use any of the add-ons that would have actually made it a fulfilling and fun activity. So the end result was it was very frustrating for them. Another thing he talked about was the expertise to maintain and operate devices and technology in the classrooms. Again, a problem. The expertise are whoever happens to be the person in the building who's named in that job, and that person tends to have more than one job. I'm one of the people who work on computers and problems, glitches that come up. I'm not an expert. I Google it. We do have an IT department for an entire school district of 10,000 kids. They're not going to be able to come over and fix things. So that is a problem. Inflexibility of schedules. The teachers have post-COVID so much on their plates as far as expectations to recover learning loss. Adding in technology when they don't have any idea how to do that is not going to be on the forefront for them. Their schedules are reading math, reading math, reading math, reading math. Get the kids reading, get them to understand all the things that they lost while we were remote. So putting in technology requires time that doesn't exist for many of our teachers. Lack of curriculum, and a great point here was teachers will use what's familiar, safe, and reliable. Absolutely. I picked up boxes of robots from classrooms at the end of the school year. We have dash and dot robots, and we had some coding toys, coding materials. Had never been opened. Not even the boxes were still covered with dust. Plastic wrap was still on many of the devices. And the reason for that is not just, oh, I refuse to use technology. It was, I don't know how, you haven't taught me, and I don't have time to teach myself. So they go to what's reliable for them. I can teach it and I can show it and I can encourage all I want to, but they have to be able to feel comfortable enough with it to move from what they understand how to use to what they're not quite as comfortable with. And not too many people will do that. And then a big thing, it's so true, decisions are made by people who have no time in a classroom. They don't understand that it's not that easy to put technology into place, especially at your younger grade levels when you have kids who don't even know the letters of their name at first and second grade. kids who need to learn basic social skills in order to be successful in a classroom. Those things are priority for us who are working with younger kids. So when you have no connection to that, you have no understanding to it. A great example of that would be I was just teaching coding and robotics camp to 3 and 4 year olds and fives. And one of the activities was to take a story and do a coding map of it, an organizational piece. And the person who I was working with said, well, just give it to them and tell them, Rosie needs to walk Rosie's the chicken, from her hen house to the barn, and they should just draw arrows. I said, yep, here, that's wonderful. That's exactly how you use coding symbols. Problem is, they don't know how to make arrows because they're 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. It's not that easy to make an arrow. You have to teach them how to make an arrow. That takes a whole class session to teach them how to make an arrow and practice that. Then try having them turn left and right. So there's so many things that make it difficult for teachers, but it's not impossible. I'm an old teacher by teaching standards. This is my 33rd year. I 31 years in the classroom, and this is my 2nd year as a library media specialist. So I've seen it all. I started out when there was nothing technology based in the classroom. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes interest, and it takes the willingness to hone your craft and continue learning. And I think that's going to be a huge problem as we move forward. We have people in the building who are experts, but we also have 52 other jobs to do. As far as how do I model and promote information technology, I think I do a pretty good job at that. As I said in one of my posts, I think I might be a little bit more of a user of technology than an integrator, but that's something I definitely plan to work on. Best practices, I invite teachers in all the time to watch as I do, for example, stop motion animation or coding a story, how you take us an everyday read aloud and make it into a coding activity. But most teachers don't stay. If they have the option to leave, they're going to leave and go do what they need to do, cutting out 52 snowflakes or just going to the bathroom when they have 5 minutes. So I think it's going to take time, and I think we thought we did a great job integrating technology during COVID, but all we did was give them a device and then send them home with it. And we did our teaching, but was it quality? Were we able to give them everything? No, because we never had any instruction on how to prior to that. So I think the best thing we can do in moving forward is have a positive attitude and just think about, what do I need to do to be successful in this with integrating technology in the classroom? The first thing I need is to invest the time. Thank you.